Well, share this because there are people listening that are going to come across deals that they don't know how to do this. And they're not going to be the person.
Call us.
How do they know when it's the right time to call you and get your insight? What is that seller? I know you talked about this with me before, kind of identifying the profile of the seller that makes sense to get you involved. What does that look like for the people listening who are not seeing the behind the scenes of how you operate?
I think basically if it's an investor special, I mean, we all know what those are in real estate. You know, it needs a new roof. It needs new windows. There's no air conditioning. I mean, those are the things that even most investors don't necessarily want to take on. It makes it a little bit easier when you don't have the in-between real estate cost and the holding cost. Yeah. You know, because the seller's probably going to be holding that market or the house on the market for months anyway, paying all those holding costs. And then they're still going to have to give a credit for all of those items to whatever potential buyer. So we can either, sell it to the investors for next to nothing, and you can just walk away, easy peasy cash, nothing to worry about. Or we can get you maximum value. And so I think really that's kind of the definition. The investor special is where we specialize.
Yes.
Hey, welcome back to the Pursuit of Property podcast. We have exciting guests on the podcast today. They have, I know, been paying attention for quite a while, watching our videos, wanting to be involved. And so we finally managed to get you on today.
We're so excited.
Yes.
That's it. We have Lynette Baker, Tracy de Jong with Style Redefined, along with the Baker de Jong real estate team over at Realty Concepts.
Yes.
Yep.
Look at that.
There it is.
Yay.
There it is.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
How's so you guys just went on a magazine. We just were talking about that.
Yeah.
You guys have had, at least from our perspective, a great year. How are you guys feeling going into the last quarter of the year here?
I mean, we're feeling pretty good. It's been, our business has been pretty consistent this year.
It has.
Which is good.
Yes.
A good thing.
Yeah.
I think the market in general has slowed down a little bit this last quarter. I think a lot of people are waiting to see what happens with the election and interest rates, that whole thing. So yeah, we'll see. It just feels like it slowed down a little earlier than normal this year.
We felt that too.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The last quarter has been the exact same for us. It was a little bit of a step back.
Yes. And I'm hoping that maybe the prices will drop and, we can pick up some good investment properties this last quarter.
Let's go.
I know. Yes.
You don't like it when you're on the flip side of things, right? But when you're trying to get a deal, then it's all good.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, before we get into the meat and potatoes of kind of this new tool you guys have implemented in your tool belt to help sellers, help your clients in the real estate space, briefly, how did each of you guys get started in real estate? What's kind of your guys' background?
I'll let you start because you've been in it longer.
Yeah, so I got into real estate around 2004, 2005. My dad was a ag lender, and he was actually head of the Coldwell Banker ag division here in Fresno. And we lived in Tulare at the time, so he would travel back and forth. And then he had a ranch with his nephew on the west side. So he was really involved in ag lending and then also ag real estate. I never really thought about it as a kid. I just know my dad, he worked hard. He worked a lot. So I never really thought about it until a little bit later on in my late 20s. When I went to college at Cal State Long Beach, I worked part-time for, her name was Diane Mazzacco. And in fact, I think she's still in real estate to this day. And I was an assistant for her, working part-time, going to college. And I thought it was really cool at that time. That's kind of what sparked my interest at first, and then ended up going into it a little bit later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tracy, what about you?
So I was working for a local commercial developer, and I was his leasing and office manager. So I'd been in real estate for quite a while on the commercial side. And then fast forward, I'm like, am I going to retire here or am I going to have my own business? Which was kind of like the last goal on my bucket list. And so I just started getting my real estate license online. And eventually I'm like, am I going to do this or not? And I just decided to make the jump. And so that was in 2012 when the market was just starting to recover and commercial was not yet recovered. And so I talked to a couple of commercial brokers and they're like, it's probably going to take you 5 years before you make any money. We would love to have you. But I'm like, I can't go 5 years without making any money. So jumped into residential and failure was just not an option. Had to put food on the table. So I don't think I ever took a step back as far as income goes. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's an impressive feat.
Huge blessing for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny because all four of us at this table started with an internship or like an entry level position and then worked our way up in the business. None of us, it sounds like, just started by just going and getting your license and jumping at it.
Exactly.
Did you guys find that was helpful to have that background? I feel like when I talk to you now, I mean, you both have so much experience and it's kind of a diversified experience. I would have to guess that really helps in the amount of situations you guys walk into, that you have a commercial background, you have ag lending background, you have investing background, sales background. That has to be super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like for me too, going to school, I was focusing on marketing too in school. So that's kind of my love. So it really works out well with both of us.
At that.
I love the social media stuff. I love, figuring out, okay, who's our buyer on this? What is the demographic? Where do they go? What do they do? What do they like? So that's really fun for me. And she loves the whole design aspect of it.
And negotiating.
The number crunching.
I was a legal secretary for 7 years before I went to work for the commercial developer. So, kind of know the contracts and I can kind of talk that language too a little bit.
Rule number 1, don't mess around with Tracy. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, next deal we buy from you guys, you're out of the picture.
So obviously you guys are now here together.
Yes.
You guys are running a real estate team together. How did you guys meet? How did the partnership kind of come to fruition?
She is so sly. So I started at London Properties and Lynette and her partner Stephanie had just come over there as managers. And so they became my manager. And so I was with them. And then I ended up going over to Clovis because Tanner was coming to the end of his elementary career at Dry Creek. And so I wanted to be in Clovis. And then in the meantime, I think you guys had left and went to Realty Concepts and they had a non-compete agreement. So rather than trying to recruit me, Lynette invited me to go work out. And so
we were strictly working out at the gym.
So we were just working out at the gym while she was telling me how wonderful.
I would throw that in there every once in a while.
Yes. Yeah. And lo and behold, I ended up at Realty Concepts. And she and Stephanie wanted to focus on the managing side. Lynette wanted to focus on the business side. And so I helped Lynette on a few transactions here and there, kind of testing the waters. Mm-hmm. And then in 2019, we formally partnered and the rest is history.
And I mean, I loved managing, but we were both managing and selling, but I started to prefer more of just being on the selling side because there was more flexibility there. My kids were getting older and just being able to make it to their games. Real estate is it's a great job. It's flexible. You're able to do things on your own terms, which I love. So
24 hours a day, baby.
Yeah.
Never off.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You get to make your schedule.
Right. Yes.
You're deciding which 10 hours you're working that day.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you started working together 2019. Mm-hmm. And at the start, were you just doing sales or were you flipping? Were you investing?
We were just doing sales at that point. And then my mom moved back to Fresno from Phoenix, and she and my grandmother had been flipping mobile homes in Phoenix.
I need to meet your grandma and your mom. That is awesome.
You'll meet grandma someday in heaven. But so yeah, mom decided she would try her hand at flipping a stick house here, which is different. And she went a little overboard, and I kept trying to tell her, you're over improving for the area. And so that one was not a moneymaker for her. And so she allowed me to assist on the next one. And then after that, I was a partner. And so in 2021, we created an LLC, my mom, my sister, and I.
When did she move back here?
I want to say like 2019. So it took until 2020 before I partnered with my mom in flipping. And then, the flipping side, the Style Redefined side was all Lynette's brainchild.
Fill us in on that, because that's a unique proposition. I haven't seen anybody in town ever offer. So that
I think it was just watching HGTV and the unsellable houses and the gals up in the Washington area.
Yeah.
And it just looks so fun. And I thought, well, that's kind of like their personalities, their talents are a lot like Tracy, and what Tracy's good at and what I'm good at. And I thought, I wonder if there's anyone doing that here. And so I researched and looked for other people in other areas of the United States and in California who might be doing it. We talked to
2 or 3 different teams.
One person in California, and then a couple others out of state, just to kind of pick their brain first.
Yeah.
But it just seemed really exciting because it's like flipping, but you don't have the holding costs.
Yeah.
You're not having to purchase a property and then flip
Yeah.
it, but you're also helping sellers maximize their value with the program. And
Well, break it down. What does the program even look like when you're talking to a seller? Like, obviously, there's the traditional, you can list it for them.
Yeah.
Then you've got idiots like Cade and I who will just buy them cash, but there's definitely cons to selling cash. How do you go about explaining your way of helping the seller?
So we basically just tell them that, we've got 3 options for you. And it's typically sellers who are in a distressed situation. Either there's a lot of deferred maintenance, or, maybe it's just, original 1960. And so we tell them there's basically three options. We can bring in investors, which we do.
Yep.
And this is probably what they'll pay you. And I know that because I flip myself. And we could try selling it as is, like putting it on the market. In that instance, you're going to need a unicorn buyer, somebody who has cash and vision. And that's why they're a unicorn buyer, because most buyers either don't have vision or don't have cash. Or we can flip it for you and help you maximize your value. And this is what it looks like.
Gotcha.
I think when they see everything broken down, that's when they start to understand it more. Because when at first you're talking about it, the concept is a little
daunting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very new.
Yes.
Yeah.
As experienced investors, I mean, it took us talking for 20, 30 minutes before I had a pretty good idea of what you were doing.
Yeah.
So I can imagine somebody who's not in that world, they may get pretty confused.
Yeah. Well, and I think it works really well for people where it's a situation they've inherited a home, or they're a divorce. Yeah.
An investor
or an investor who got
situation.
themselves in too deep,
Yeah.
didn't have a great experience or something. It's a little tougher when they're still living in the home, because we did that. In fact, our second one, he was still living in the
Madera.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was able to, they had an ADU.
Yeah. We fixed up the ADU and moved him out there.
Yeah, so we did that first.
There we go.
We fixed that
Yeah.
part up first, then he moved out there.
Yeah.
And he went and visited his daughter
Yeah.
a few times just to kind of get out of town for a little
which
bit.
is what his goal was,
Yeah.
to move up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So logistically, what does that look like? You have a seller who says, okay, you guys are going to flip it for me. That sounds pretty cool. Yes, let's move forward with it. What are the obligations of the seller? And then what are you guys promising for this option? And what are you guys delivering on?
So we basically front the cost of the flip and make all the design decisions. And
Wow.
yeah,
Do you get pushback from the sellers when you're calling the shots on what you're doing?
a little bit.
Yeah, the last one, the one that we're doing right now, right?
Yeah.
At first, but then once you just have to set the expectation and then explain to them that this is supposed to appeal to the masses, because a lot of times sellers do have an emotional attachment, or maybe they wanted to fix it up at one point and they never did. So then they're like,
they've got ideas
well, don't
in
you
their
want to do
head.
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We've got that right now.
We've got that right now.
We're taking out the kitchen window. Like, it had 2 windows, but we needed to remove one so that we could put cabinets and the range and the refrigerator. And at first she said no. I'm like, then I don't have a kitchen. And so showed her the floor plan and she's like, okay, I see your vision. I trust you. So now, she's been going in. She's like, I love it. So
Wow. It's got, like you said, it's got to be hard partnering with the seller where they still, I'm guessing, are on title.
Yeah.
So they still kind of have an argument to
Yes,
say
and
it's my
they're-
house.
Yeah.
Right. And they have they're covering the water, the trash, the PG&E,
Everything.
Yeah.
everything on that end.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, when you're going in, I know I don't have the vision for design. I am more of the numbers, the talker, but not the guy that actually gets the house fixed up. I would have a hard time trusting the process too. And I bet you have run into situations where you're midway through a project and you need to just get the seller to trust the process. It'll work out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we had that at our Madeira flip as well. The rest of them have been, either, again, the probate situation or a divorce situation where the level of emotional involvement is not as extreme as when they're actually living in the property, and again, have those visions in their head of how they wanted to do things.
Our larger one, the bigger renovation that we did on Gettysburg,
That was
Gorgeous.
That was
Yes.
so much fun.
That was so much fun. We want to do another one of those.
I know.
But Alan, the seller, he was there almost every day,
Yeah.
every other day. But he just had such a tie to the property, and he was so excited about it because it really had been in the family for generations.
Well, his dad built the home.
Yeah.
It's where he grew up. It's where all of his
But
memories
he would be mowing,
were.
like he would just be taking care of everything else and keeping it all up while we were doing the work on it. So it was
I'd
just
also
nice.
known him since 1994. So he,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, he trusted a lot in my judgment because we'd been doing a lot of the commercial stuff together. So
And he's an architect, right?
yeah.
What was the address for Gettysburg?
2287 Gettysburg.
If you're listening to this podcast, you need to go look at that house. I had the pleasure of getting to walk it. And just the other day, I was comping a different property and I saw the end product and I was astonished at what you did, because that house was very choppy. It was a little bit difficult to navigate. And the photos, it's just a completely different place.
Yeah.
And I can see why he'd be excited. I mean, you blew me away with what you did.
Yeah.
I mean, converted that whole area to the east of the house.
Yes.
I mean, it's just,
just
so usable now.
Huge family room. It's like, what do we even do with this?
Yeah, we were walking through
Yeah.
it.
And the owner's suite was tiny.
It was tiny. It had a small bathroom.
Yeah.
And we were like,
And it was only
to get that
3
price
bedroom.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we dive into a little bit of that deal? Because obviously you had given the seller the options because he asked for a couple of us to come out.
Yeah.
I felt like the offers that you got were in line with what
They were completely in line. Yeah.
And so if the seller had gone with a cash route, I don't remember what pricing looked like for that
was
versus
Between 380 and 410.
Yeah, I think it was 380. I told him that's probably where the pricing would come in, and that's where the pricing came in.
And when you guys fixed it up and sold it, how far were you able to push that house once it was fully done? I don't remember.
710.
Wow.
Jeez. And
Yeah.
so how much in the way this route works, you guys are bringing the money for the renovations for the flip. You guys are running the design. when you turn around, you guys are then listing the property for the seller, right? And in this example, how does that look like on the sales side in terms of, obviously, you guys had to have put a significant amount of cash into that rehab. You guys aren't doing that for free, so you definitely want to recoup that. So how does that look on the sales side once the project's done?
So we have two companies. Style Redefined is doing the flip side, maximizing your value. Baker and de Jong is doing the listing. So we keep it in two separate entities. So the listing side takes care of listing the property, the photos, the staging. The Style Redefined takes care of the flip side. We front the money, we've got a note on the house, and then we have a design fee that's associated with it. Yeah.
And so obviously you sold that Gettysburg house for almost double what you were going to get if you were to sell it to an investor. You didn't probably put $300,000 into the house. My assumption is you're splitting some of the profit that's being created with the seller, and then your company keeps some. Do you guarantee the seller, like, base pay, you're going to make this amount, or is it up to whatever the house gets bid up to, we'll split it a percentage?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't guarantee an amount because, when we first meet with them, we haven't done the inspections yet. We're doing one right now where we told the seller, we're probably going to need a new roof. She said, no, it's a new roof. It's not. And so that's going to, affect the profitability of it. But we don't guarantee a price. Markets change, but we are, splitting the profits in whatever sense that means. And we definitely try to keep the cost under control. And that's why we don't have the sellers as involved in the design decisions, because we know what buyers want.
Right. And we don't want delays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would guess as well, by the time, like this Gettysburg house, if you had listed that home, it would have sat for a while.
Right.
There would have been renegotiations. There would have been repairs, all these things that add up.
Yeah.
This way, you pretty much tailored it clearly by the way it sold to exactly what multiple people wanted.
Yeah.
You create urgency right at the get-go and it sells. And I guess is because you did the remodel, you did the inspections, you know what stuff is going to be there. You already handled it, and it just makes the entire transaction smoother.
Exactly.
I love it because it's in my neighborhood, so it improved the neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
Why don't we have something like that?
I know. We got to work on our chemistry, bro. We got to work on it.
You guys are good.
So how long has this been, how long has Style Redefined been a part of your guys' business? When was this idea introduced? When did you guys first do your first house?
Christmas time, or was it before that?
Well, let me see. It had to have been in 2018 because I was out in Phoenix, I think, for my grandmother's last birthday on Earth. And Lynette is texting me, you've got to watch this. We should do this.
Was it that long ago?
It was. So it took us, I think, Lynette is the one who is like, we need to do this. And like the next week we're doing it. Whereas I'm like, whoa. I
just jump in.
Let's figure this out. So it did. It took us a good year or so.
I have two clients. Let's hurry up and make a business plan.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Well,
and that is what happened. I mean, we kind of jumped in on one where we just charged them interest on the loan, basically. We didn't charge a design fee or anything, charge a little bit higher commission percentage than we normally would, and just kind of got our feet wet there. And then on the next one, we charged a percentage on the profit. And that's the model that we've continued since then. Because now we feel like we know what we're doing. We've got a good idea of what they're going to make.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rings so true.
Yeah.
I think people listening to this are going to be newer investors. And this idea is so gold that because there's nobody doing it except you that I know of, there's ultimately people will pop up as they see how profitable this can be or how successful it can be.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is that you have backgrounds that really complement it, from marketing
Yeah.
and design and legal and lending. There's a lot that goes into this
Yeah.
to make this a seamless package.
Yeah.
If you didn't have all this background, my guess is you probably would have got burned on the first deal.
Yeah.
And it would be a rough day for you.
Yeah.
But you have so much background and context that you guys make this sound so easy. And I know that there's so many moving parts.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of moving parts just with our business where it's
Yeah.
very clean cut. There's no seller involved. We have an acquisitions department, operations department, a sales department, and you two are running all of that. It just blows our mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
excited.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we love seeing it grow. I think the part where we're trying to see what other options there are out there is on the money side of it, to be able to do
Yeah.
multiple projects on a larger
Yeah,
scale.
because using all of our own money is tough.
It limits what you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough to get financing because we don't own the property. So we as the borrowers can't encumber the property. So that makes it tough. So we are exploring options.
We've had a few clients reach out to us to say, hey,
Yeah.
we're interested in investing in this.
Yeah.
Let us know if you guys need funds. So it's
Which is kind of nice. Yeah.
Very nice. That's especially kind of the next logical step. If you guys, it's a good problem to have more opportunities and not enough money to be able to then bring in
Yeah.
that private money to raise and still give them the return they need, be able to make a win-win for the seller and then a win-win for
Yeah.
you guys.
Well, and we want to be able to help other agents as well. And we've had a couple reach out to us and just say, hey, what does this look like? Can you help us? And, we haven't had the opportunity yet. We've definitely talked to a couple.
Yeah, we've
but-
gone on a listing
Yeah.
appointment with one of them and went through all the numbers and everything.
Yeah.
And
And
on that one,
it didn't make sense.
didn't make sense.
For this, it didn't make sense for the seller.
Yeah.
Like they weren't going to make any more money. So why go through the process? And thankfully that seller is in escrow now. So
There it is.
yeah.
I just love how versatile your way of looking at it is. I mean, if you get a call from most any seller, there's an option that you can provide. It really aligns with how we operate, which is, and the term we use is a consultative approach. It's very not pressuring.
Yeah.
It's, here's the different
There's
routes you can go. No matter which way you go, we're
Yeah.
here to help. And I find I feel better when I actually am solving the real problem
Right.
than when I see people kind of finagle a seller down a route that maybe doesn't really make
Yeah.
sense. And like you said, you brought in cash investors to that client and he maybe would have been happy, but he was so much happier
Yeah.
going through and seeing the end result. And I'm guessing he made a little extra money and
Oh,
that
yeah.
can't hurt. So
Yes.
I just think that's super, super
Yeah.
cool. And it's so unique. And I'm surprised that so few people have figured this out the way that you have.
Well, even for an investor too, who's rented out a property for a number of years and just say they want to sell their assets in California and invest out of state. We had one investor like that.
Yeah.
And we went in and did the same thing. And it was really helpful because it made his property was, it was nice. It was clean, but it just needed some updates. It didn't need a whole lot. So yeah, it just depends on the property, but
Well, and
it
he's
just
not
felt
local,
good.
so it
Yeah,
would have
he's
been
not
very
here.
difficult for him to
Yeah.
do it himself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, question for you guys, because we've talked a little bit about, there's really nobody else doing this here. You guys have seen how powerful a tool it is, not only to help your clients, but also for you guys at the end of the day. You guys are a business. You guys don't do things for free. You're in the business of helping people, right? And creating win-wins. But you guys are so open about breaking this down and how it works and what you guys are doing. And I feel like not everybody is that way. Somebody finds the diamonds and they want to gatekeep, right? What's the thought process in just being open and honest and sharing with people what you guys are doing?
Well, I mean, we want to be able to help more people, more sellers, and then also more agents because, a lot of times you come across that challenge where you have a client and they're really having a tough time because they've been in the house for a long time and they feel overwhelmed. They want to make a change. They might want to downsize, but they've been there for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And it's daunting. And to not be able to help them solve that problem is tough. So that's kind of where we step in and where we want to be, is just to help
I think
people.
Most of the agents don't know where to start. They don't, and they don't have the resources to front that kind of cost for their client. They maybe got a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand, but not $100,000
Right.
to do a big flip. I mean, because we were in over $100,000 on Gettysburg.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's a big house.
Yeah.
And it's what I love too is that you don't even step in and move the agent out. You're just filling in, saying,
they're the
I'm a
superstar.
resource
Yes.
to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And even on the listing appointment, same thing, is like, you're the superstar, you're the professional agent helping your client. We're just trying to help solve the challenge there so that everyone can move forward.
Yeah, we definitely plug the agent as being the superstar, but we also try to impart the importance of staging, because that's something that we do in all of our listings, and especially in these seller flips. That's, in our minds, that's how we get the big bucks for these listings. And so we start telling the sellers and the agents, our expectation is that it's going to be staged.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of people don't do that.
No.
We've implemented staging this year, and it has made a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can say in my 6 years of being in the business, I have not staged homes.
Yeah.
I never thought that it was worth it, but on some of our flips, we're staging at certain price points.
Yeah.
And it definitely helps provide the vision to that buyer, like
Yeah,
you were
it
talking
does.
about.
It gets more
It does.
people into the house for sure.
Yeah, not everybody has vision, and you can provide a very nice vision with
Yeah.
a good staging company.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm blown away at how many different facets of this you already are experts at, and how it almost feels like the stars aligned for you to do something like this. I mean, how many people do you know that have construction background, have marketing background, are top producing agents, have the resources and the skill set to lend and borrow money and set up the structure? I mean, this on the surface can seem simple. Oh, we partner with the seller, we fix it up, and then everybody makes more money. I mean,
There's still a lot involved in it.
Yeah.
there's so
100%.
much. And you guys, is it just the two of you running a majority of this, or do you have some people helping you?
We have a full-time virtual marketing person. We have a part-time virtual
Admin, like
admin,
operations,
but that's
kind of
really for the real estate side.
It's more for the real estate side.
And then we've got a contractor.
yeah.
So yeah, it's us.
Oh my.
Jeez.
And you're smiling. I can't.
We're really enjoying this side
Yeah.
of it, though. We really would like to grow on that end of it.
Yeah.
We love real estate, but it's really fun on the Style Redefined side.
I'm all about making things beautiful again. I love seeing something that is a little challenging just become absolutely beautiful. It's so much fun.
Well, and talking about growth, what does the rest of this year look like? Even looking into next year, we know planning for next year always starts in this crunch time, these last couple months.
Yeah.
What are your guys' goals, not only for maybe the real estate side with the team, but also with Style Redefined?
So we want to do at least one more seller flip this year. So we're on the hunt. Any sellers out there? We're here for you.
Awesome.
And then for next year, I think we'd like to at least double the seller flips. So what have we done this year? 4 of them? 3 of them? Yeah, I want to do 10 next year.
That's our goal for next year.
Well,
Yeah.
and you sell enough homes that it seems as if you put some intention to it, there
Yeah.
were sellers that you could have worked
yeah.
with, but you weren't confident
Right.
at that time to tell them
Exactly.
how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Or they don't have enough equity or whatever the situation is, because that is a requirement. There has to be some equity there. We don't want to put a seller in an upside down position.
Yeah, God forbid.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so you want to get to 10. What does the marketing look like right now for you to attract those sellers? It feels to me like it's agent outreach, since a lot of agents right now maybe walk into a house that needs some work and they're concerned that the market's already hard enough. They're, not sure how to handle that listing.
We just started to focus on more of the agent side of things because that's part of our growth strategy. So yeah, definitely very important.
And attorneys, family law, estate planning, probate attorneys. Yeah.
Because they're coming across deals before it even hits the real estate sector.
Yeah.
And just our sphere of influence, just getting the word out to our sphere. That's where we've had a few as well come our way. So,
Well, share this because there are people listening that are going to come across deals that they don't know how to do this. And they're not going to be the person.
Call us.
How do they know when it's the right time to call you and get your insight? What is that seller? I know you talked about this with me before, kind of identifying the profile of the seller that makes sense to get you involved. What does that look like for the people listening who are not seeing the behind the scenes of how you operate?
I think basically if it's an investor special, I mean, we all know what those are in real estate. You know, it needs a new roof. It needs new windows. There's no air conditioning. I mean, those are the things that even most investors don't necessarily want to take on. It makes it a little bit easier when you don't have the in-between real estate cost and the holding cost. You know, because the seller's probably going to be holding that market or the house on the market for months anyway, paying all those holding costs. And then they're still going to have to give a credit for all of those items to whatever potential buyer. So we can either, sell it to the investors for next to nothing, and you can just walk away, easy peasy cash, nothing to worry about. Or we can get you maximum value. And so I think really that's kind of the definition. The investor special is where we specialize.
Yes, or or expired listings. For all the agents out there who have had an expired listing, or if you're marketing to expired listings, that's another tool to use us to help. Because in more cases than none, I would say it's a situation where the seller wanted this much, but maybe their property, wasn't improved to that level.
Right.
So they need to make a couple of adjustments maybe in price and then also in doing some improvements and some things to the home.
We've had a couple of those as well.
Or a property that's just been on the market for a while. That an agent is struggling with.
Yeah. So between the two of you guys have so much combined experience that you guys have brought to the table to build your guys' businesses, build your team. Scott mentioned a little earlier, a lot of our listeners are either brand new in real estate. They maybe they're licensed, investor, whatever, a deal or two under their belt, and they're just trying to grow. They're in grow mode, right? Between your guys' experience, everything that you guys have learned, dealt with, what would be like one single piece of advice for that newer investor, somebody who wants to find success in this business? What would that be?
Way to put them on the spot.
I know. Just to surround yourself around other like-minded people who are doing the same thing, who you can learn from, who you can share your ideas with.
Work hard and don't be lazy.
We've had
goes without being said, but needs to be restated.
It needs to be restated. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like we have worked so hard our whole lives, and that's how you get your goals. Not, just thinking about it. You've got to do the work.
And learning how to pivot, right?
Yeah.
So,
just like this.
during certain times.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I fully stand with that. I know you mentioned you guys are involved in social media. I enjoy seeing what you put out. What's the best route for people listening to stay in touch so that they can reach out to you? Social media?
Social media for sure. Yeah. We're getting a ton of calls from our YouTube. Our Fresno.
No way.
Yeah.
Plug the YouTube.
Fresno Redefined.
Yes.
Okay.
Fresno Redefined.
And then
Baker de Jong Homes on Instagram.
And then Lynette Baker Realtor.
And Tracy de Jong Realtor.
Boom.
And Redefine Your Home. Those are all Instagram.
Yeah.
So those are all the channels that
Or you can call and text.
just pick up the phone. We're good.
I love it. I had one other question before we wrap up here. When's the TV show coming out? You have to be in talks
There
with
it
a team.
is. There it is.
I had this feeling, and when I read the article that you're in the magazine that you're in, the top producers, I was like, I think there's a TV show coming out. Is there works of trying to be on a TV show?
We would love that.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
I think of the people we've met who have the most
yeah.
interesting personality, charisma, business model. I think you two would absolutely dominate. And I think, you should be putting out little feelers there, here and there. You'd be surprised, but
Oh my gosh, don't give her any ideas.
Oh my gosh, our media guy is great though. Jaywalk Media, they do. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos that they've done. They've done a couple like on the Gettysburg property, on Pico. But I love their style because it's kind of like a little mini TV show.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I love it. When you make it big, just remember that you came on the Pursuit of Property podcast before the TV show. Don't forget about the little guys.
Before they make it to HGTV.
Remember when?
Well, thanks so much for joining the podcast. I know we were genuinely excited for the opportunity to just hear about it.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
What
us.
a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
We will see you guys back next week for the Pursuit of Property podcast.